Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. We're here for what feels like an everyday event, another full-time match reaction show. It's finished down in Brighton. Brighton 2, Liverpool 3, in what for the first half looked like it was going to be an absolute stinker of a game, but funny how a game of two halves, isn't it, Chris? A game of two halves.
Very much so. But listen, through to the next round of the Cup, no injuries, and loads of squad players got minutes. Happy days, pretty much. But I would say to you guys in our chat, up until about the 70th, 80th minute mark, that's the most comfortable I felt watching Liverpool away at Brighton. Now, admittedly, both teams have done a lot of change, but normally Brighton away it is a bit more edgy seat. It was quite a good game actually. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's no shortage of talking points. I mean, at halftime, there was somebody in the Telegram group that was like, you guys are going to struggle to get a half an hour out of this one. And it's like, you obviously don't know anything about how we do shows. That's literally never been an issue. But I mean, Kev, you're slightly different to the rest of us. You quite liked the first half.
Yeah, I like games like that. You're in the League Cup. In the League Cup, you're never going to play your normal 11. So you're always looking to see who's sharp, who's on it, who's not, who needs the minutes, who's comfortable. And both sides were in that boat. So I like first halves like that because you saw bits of quality from both sides. But I really enjoyed the likes of Conor Bradley making overlapping runs and getting in crazy positions. And the amount of running that guy did for someone who's been injured for so long. I was looking forward to seeing Yaros, see how he got on. The centre-back pairing, what were they going to be like? You know, there was so much to look out for. That's why normally I love the League Cup, purely and simply because it's this competition that we get to see some of the kids who we saw in pre-season, they go away, and then they roll them out again for the League Cup. And we get to see it, do you remember this in pre-season, this and that? And, where are they and what have you? I saw the lineups, and I was like, okay, how is this going to work? This is going to be interesting. So yeah, I enjoy stuff like that. I enjoy games like that. I mean, you're not every game is going to be where you're going to dominate the ball and you're going to create dozens of chances and what have you. You're going to have a lot of games like this, and you got to find the bits in it for me that stand out. And there was loads in that first half. There was loads in that first half that stood out for me.
Wow, I should let you run the show then. I mean, Ashley, Kev's bang on. I mean, especially these early round League Cup games, you like seeing the heavy rotation. I'm always one for. I would have loved to have seen Trey Nioni get a start in the game just because we're a little light in midfield. But we got the lineup going across the bottom. We end up with 8 changes from Sunday, which is somewhat to be expected. You get Robertson, you get Jones, you get Diaz keeping their spots in the team. It is fun to see some of the fringe players get out there. Like Dan J says, like it's a chance for fringe players and some youngsters and crazy games at times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of the bed that we are in right now. We got rid of a lot of youth players over the summer. So what we have is kind of what we played. It's not like we had extra youth players to come in. I mean, there are players that City are throwing on that I've never heard of. Which is kind of reminiscent of where we were last year with, throwing on a lot of our academy kids. But, Slot has made the decision early on that, he wanted a smaller squad, that he wanted to trim some of the academy players off. And, I think he might have liked to have a little bit more rotation, I think, than he actually did today. I think he would have liked to have changed that full 11 if everything had gone smoothly on the injury front. But, unfortunately, we are dealing with a few more injuries than I think he probably would have expected. I doubt that if you had asked him at the beginning of the year, he would have said, we'll have 5 or 6 injuries in October. I feel like he would have backed his injury prevention methods a little bit more. But it is what it is. And, I think it was relatively strong. I don't think that was like a side that went out and defied the odds to win that game. I think that was a very good Cup team.
Yeah. Yeah, we have quality in depth. I mean, it was something that you pointed out last week or so that, kind of 1 through 11, we seem like we have an able deputy for every single position on the pitch. A little less so now with Chiesa being unfit, with Jota being out injured. I think that was the one part in terms of our lineup where it would have been nice to have just a little bit more depth, to have a Jaden Dans or a Ben Doak or somebody like that to come off and help complement the front. But Chris, for me, again, going off what Kev said of, just seeing how we line up and whatnot, of looking and going, who's going to play up top? How are we going to line up? How's the midfield three going to set up? Who's going to be the forward person out of them? We end up with Endo and Morton sitting, Jones effectively acting as the second 9 with Dominic Szoboszlai and Gakpo and Diaz keeping chalk on their boots.
Just 4-2-4, wasn't it? Fuck it, let's just go for it. It's great laugh. I mean, but you can see in the first couple of minutes, just let Steele have the ball, because my God, that's definitely a goalkeeper who thinks he can play football and then remembers he's a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Because he was very, very lucky not to be caught on the ball quite a few times. So you can see why he played those two through the middle. So, City are out. There we go. That also opens the draw up, because that's one big team you don't have to worry about.
Yeah. And I'm sure the draw results, I think it starts in about 15 minutes or something like that.
I'm sure we'll end up with Man United away. Let's be honest, because that'd just be our luck, wouldn't it?
Yes, of course it will. But we'll get to that, as I'm sure people in the chat or Ashley will keep us updated live as the draw once it starts happening.
Yeah, but no, in general, I was happy. I thought Jaros again. I thought he did well. One thing Liverpool seem to be able to produce at the moment is good goalkeepers. That's definitely a thing on our production line. Is Jaros is very similar stylistically to what you want Kelleher to do, what you want Alisson to do. So style-wise, doesn't really change too much, and he was quick again, does all the things we want a Liverpool keeper to do, quick off the line, takes risks with his feet, nearly got caught once, but that's the risk and reward we play, and pretty decent on crosses as well. Little unlucky with the second goal, and first goal, sorry, maybe another day he might get slightly better touch it, push it wide, but for his first start, I don't think you can ask for much more from him.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, the 2 goals going in really took away some of the energy I had built up for picking up Vita Jaros as a potential man of the match shout, because pretty tough to be man of the match when you let in 2 goals. But yeah, 12th minute, I mean, he makes a great save off of Lamptey, that the sort of save that we expect Liverpool goalkeepers to make, coming out quick, getting off your line, being big, and then we turn it around, we go back down the other end where Gakpo has an early sighter, which turns out in hindsight was foresight. Kev, there was really, for my mind, there was that Lamptey chance for Brighton, and then we had 2 chances through Gakpo, Szoboszlai, and Robertson linking up down at the other end. But the reason I didn't like the first half, in opposition to you liking it, was I thought it was extremely short on quality from both teams. I thought the quality of the football was...
Yeah, I think, look, Madge made a great point earlier on when she talked about you've got 2 lineups who really generally don't play together on a regular basis. And you're never going to get free-flowing, open attacking football like we're accustomed to seeing in the league and in Europe. But at the same time, there were some things that worked, there were some things that didn't work. All right. Jones and Szoboszlai playing as false nines, as 2 false nines, to me just didn't work at all. The amount of times where you were screaming out for a centre forward to make runs going the other way just to open space in the middle of the park was no odds to no one. The other thing that I didn't like seeing, and I'm seeing it a lot, is Andy Robertson inverting and being inside his left winger when I think it was on about 32 minutes was the first time that he went on the outside and got a cross in and just created a chance. And that's all it was. It was just created a chance. But it's just a frustrating thing in watching us with Robertson and Cody Gakpo on that side. It's transferred from league and Europe into tonight's game as well. And it's purely simply because I don't think Andy Robertson offers you anything when he gets there. And believe me, I don't think Costa Simicats offers you anything in that position either. If you had a Trent Alexander-Arnold type fullback, or even Connor Bradley type fullback on the left, I think you'll see happier returns from someone being in that position, arriving into the box really late to be the extra person. But yeah, look, the other thing that screamed out to me is Endo badly needed minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's second guessing himself when he's on the ball or wanting an extra second. And in fairness, you could tell Brighton targeted him as well. As soon as the ball, they were quite happy for him to take the ball into midfield. And as soon as he got on the ball, got on a half turn, they swamped him. Because it was like, most of the time he got away with it, and he battled and he broke through the lines and played a pass off. But when he didn't, it looked like a deer in the headlights situation where it wasn't a case he didn't know where to go. It was he didn't have the options open to him to where he wanted to go, because your striker and your number 10 were coming in deep or drifting wide or just offering him different options that he's not used to playing with. You know, you can have as many training sessions as you like, but it's real match situations that make the difference. And he was rusty, and there was a fair few players tonight that looked a bit rusty, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
I think rust is a good way of describing it, especially for somebody like Endo.
Yeah, and that's the case for both sides, by the way. You know, there was rustiness on their sides as well, with players who hadn't played minutes for a while. And normally you see Brighton with the two full-backs causing havoc. We saw it late on in the game when Matoma came on. The difference between Matoma and the understanding that he had with his full-back, with Estupiñán when he came on, as opposed to what they started with Adringa on the left and the Turkish fullback, was it Kajoglu? Their understanding isn't quite there. That won't be the same on Saturday. It will be different on Saturday. It'll be a live test from the start of Saturday. But then we won't be putting out anywhere near that kind of 11 either.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so strange to be able to
2 minutes, all right?
So yeah, to be able to take so little from back-to-back games against the same opposition, because we know there's going to be heavy rotation through it. I mean, yeah, really, Ashley, I know you missed kind of the first few minutes of the half trying to find a decent source for the game. I don't really think that you missed all that much. Do you have any huge takeaways from the first half? Were you screaming out for any massive changes at halftime?
Not really. I mean, I think Jaros made a good fist of things, no pun intended. I know, kind of intended. But in general, I mean, like you guys said, I think, you know, this kind of conveyor belt, I guess, for lack of a better term, of keepers that we have is something that, you know, has kind of gone under the radar. I know that we talk about Kelleher all the time, but I do think that, you know, what we built behind the scenes, I know that Achtenberg left and he was a big part of that, but I think what Allison has kind of contributed as well into our goalkeeping department and just kind of creating this. Yes, Taffarel, definitely. They've created almost like this little mini goalkeeper camp factory that we have going on behind the scenes. And it's just great to see. It's great to see us just be able to call on those players when needed. And I mean, obviously they're not going to be Allison levels, but I was just very, very pleased with his distribution, with his composure on the ball, with his one-on-one saves, like making himself big. I mean, that was the point where I was able to get my stream going because my computer was having a meltdown. So I'm glad that I got to see that, because for me, that kind of gave me the peace of mind that I need. Whenever I see a new keeper for us, I need them to make one solid big save before my blood pressure kind of goes down. And I'm like, okay, good. Like, I trust you now. And that was a good point for me to turn on, because I think with the lineup, I think there's always going to be a little bit of nerves, and there really shouldn't have been. You know, I think the biggest nervous kind of talking point for me was, oh no, Robertson's starting. Does this mean Tsimikas is now our starting left back? And I don't know if that's true, but and I don't want to, you know, cause any heart attacks live on stream.
You just about killed Chris.
I apologize. But I do think that was something that kind of crossed my mind. I don't think that's actually what's happening. But
you do need to pre-warn those sort of thoughts, Ashley.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's probably the other talking point from the first half, because otherwise it was pretty controlled.
Yeah, we weren't really ever in a huge amount of danger. I mean, Hotline asked, I think it was even before the show went live, if Tsimikas is now our likely left back started for league games. Chris, we're pretty close to Halloween. How's that for a spooky thought for you? The changing of the guard at left back.
Oh, I was having such a nice day. To be honest, I could cranky Chris. I've got. Oh, that's a nice one. I like that one.
Literally.
No, I can see Simicast start the week. I wonder if the deal was because they were making so many changes, leave a senior person at the back, which is Robbo, give Simicast a weekend to give Robbo a rest, and then Robbo does Villa and Leverkusen, which would probably make more sense. I mean, to be fair to Costas, actually, he's done all right the last couple of games he started. So, I can't, I know I'm not his favourite person, but I can't, give credit where it's due.
I don't think
he's actually been all right.
Simicast thinks about you at all, if I'm being honest.
I very much doubt he knows who I am.
Yes. Yeah, it's but I will say before we get into the second half where everything gets good, like Kevin mentioned that it's always good with these early round League Cup games. You get to see the kids, and the Spanish word for kid is niño. And speaking of El Nino, footballprizes.co.uk has a lovely Fernando Torres, Steven Gerrard signed boots in their frame, their classic frames that they always do with the lighting and the LEDs and whatnot on it. But it's a signed El Nino boot, a signed Steven Gerrard boot with shades of those great years under Rafa Benitez on it, along with a ton of instant win prizes involving the numbers 8 and 9. So you've got Szoboszlai jersey, you got a Darwin Núñez jersey on there. So the tickets are available on their website. I think they're £3.99. Contests will run for a week or so. They're only selling a couple hundred of the tickets. I'm gonna kill you, dog. It was such a good live read, and then the damn dog. So the dog just can't believe that the bargain you get for the value of the ticket and the odds that you have at footballprizes.co.uk. But also the dog would like to make a shout out to our two charities, which are fan supporting food banks in Liverpool, the Lighthouse Cafe in Dublin. You'll always find the link on any of the shows, whether you're watching live or catching up afterwards on podcasts or on YouTube. If you can help us donate, we're trying to raise money for two wonderful organizations. Please help us do that. Kev, we now get into the nitty gritty because it took, according to my comms, 38 seconds into the second half. And that is the response that I wanted to see because I thought the first half was very low on quality from us. And to have a goal within 38 seconds, you love it.
It was a fantastic hit. It was better when you see it from behind because there was a chance in the first half, actually, that Brighton had. We didn't see so. And I compared it to Jimmy Anderson delivery, where there was a nice late swing on the end of it. This one was more along the lines of Brett Lee, absolute thunderbolt, and it dipped in at the end. It was one of those ones when he hit it, it just stayed hit. And the keeper could do nothing about it. It was all power. I mean, Gakpo had the sighter in the first half where he couldn't quite wrap his foot around it. Yeah, that's just you don't bother wrapping your foot around that one. He just hit through the ball, and it was like he looked at the ball with utter disdain, and it's like, I really don't like you, and I'm just gonna clatter you within an inch of your life, and he just twatted it. It was a brilliant hit, and it set the tone really for the second half. That I think from then up until 80 minutes, we looked more like our normal selves. I mean, I'm going to confess, right? I went into this game totally relaxed because I didn't care about the result.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. I'd still swap tonight for 3 points at the weekend. 100%. But I was delighted for Cody because that is his trademark goal. He's done it so often. And it's kind of like Salah on the right. You know he's got Cody Gakpo is looking to chop back in onto his right foot. They can't stop him doing it. And it didn't matter. But the best thing for me about that goal, apart from the hit, the ball from Tyler Morton to find him. It was just exactly what you wanted to see. We're always seeing, well, lately we're seeing a lot of midfielders looking to recycle the ball and keep possession. Turn around, turn back, keep possession, go back and go out the other side. Whatever way you want to do it. He didn't. He got the ball, and it was a difficult enough ball because it wasn't on the ground. It wasn't like he chipped the ball in. He took the ball on a half volley and just placed it in front of him and said, "Here you go, enjoy your dinner." And he did. He just absolutely feasted on it. It was a brilliant goal.
Yeah, it's Sam Tanny there pointing out the brilliant assist and awareness from Tyler Morton to see that Lamptey was out of position and give Gakpo the space too. It's almost like, Ashley, that goal is the reason why Cody Gakpo says, I want to play left wing.
I mean, we've seen him do it for the Dutch national team. Like, I've seen him score that goal. And Kev's right. it's like his signature goal. He has that, I don't know, like he didn't even curl it. It was an absolute power through the laces ball, like that. It almost had no movement, and it's like when you see the ball move and it doesn't swerve at all,
it had no spin.
Yeah, it was like how purely he hit it. And I don't think any keeper would have saved that. I mean, I know that Steele wasn't having a great day, but I don't think anyone was getting close to that. And we are blessed to have him and Diaz on the left wing because they both offer something different. And I don't actually think it's a problem that we have both of them. I think it's great that we're rotating and there's no drop off. And sometimes in games like this where you need to kind of balance out the team with experience and leadership or experience and just kind of higher quality, you need to have those squad players. And it's what we've been calling out forever to have squad players on the bench that can actually come on and make a difference, that aren't a massive drop off. And I genuinely feel like today was a perfect example of seeing that in the flesh. Like we do genuinely have a great squad.
Yeah. And it almost feels harsh to describe Cody Gakpo as a squad player because
it is. I mean, Slot didn't. He said he was a starter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just there's not enough options available to play both him and Diaz. So like it's lovely to be able to swap those two players back and forth. Kapil Bharti saying both our left wingers are absolutely killers, which is lovely to see because the output from both of them has been a little less than I think what all of us were hoping. And Antioch the third, I'm telling you guys, it's Arjen Gakpo now. I mean, as long as he doesn't become quite as one note, as one trick pony as Iron Robin was, because it got a little obvious what he was always going to try to do. Chris, we mentioned the save that he made in the first half, but just after we score, the save that Jaros makes off of the ball. So it's not good from Robertson, and I do think that this need to have a conversation about Robertson and is it going to be Tsimikas that wins the starting left back role? Tarek Lamptey absolutely skinned him alive, floats in a lovely cross, and Adingra does what you want to do, head the ball back from where it comes, but it's an outstanding save.
Yeah, it's great stuff, but I mean, guess what? Pacey wingers beat a fullback. It's been happening for ever. Do you know what? And guess what? It'll happen again. That's how ours work. That's how ours work. Gakpo did it quite a few times today. So, but listen, credit to Jaros because you could see from behind the goal, he's going the other way. So he has to go back, and it's a good fingertip he gets onto the post. And look, he deserved that little bit of luck for his goal onto the post. But look, it's a really good take. That's what you want. That's what you want from your keeper. Didn't have a lot to do. They made the big save when you needed it, and literally not long after that we score.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's one of those massive moments, and it's something that having done these shows for like 2.5 years now with you good people, that we've said a lot about Allison of makes a big save when it's 0-0 or makes a big save when we're up by 1 goal and then we go down and we get the second goal or we get the lead, and you're looking back at it going, he didn't have a lot to do, but that one moment is massive because at that point we score immediately after the start of the half. If they go back down the other end and equalize immediately, the game has a different feel to it because obviously it would have to. Michael Murphy, I'm loving the confidence, saying we've got the 3rd best goalkeeper in the league. That's absolutely brilliant. But I mean, you got to give him credit because not a lot of us would have known a whole lot about Vitor Jaros. I doubt a lot of us were watching Sturm Graz last year in the Austrian league or the Czech league, wherever they play. So it's good to see that we have that strength and depth from there. It does become 2-0, Kev, and the passage from 60 to 62 minutes is the most yin-yang attacking play that you could ever expect to see. And it's like Cody Gakpo, just when I thought you couldn't get any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. I mean, Kev, it's a 3v1, Kev. How do we not score? It gave me nightmares the last season.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The ball he decided to play back after doing all the hard work of going around the keeper was a horrific. He almost overran it by getting too close. Played the ball back. The ball back was horrendous. Szoboszlai could do nothing with it. And Steele comes out and smothers it. And within 60 I was fuming watching it. Because within 60 seconds, he literally just rifles one into the near post. And you're like, Yeah, fucking talk about get out of jail free card. It was, but you really need to be better on those counters like that. It was a case of flashbacks from last year. We went from being the flying arrows to the flying dodos, and it was they got to be better than that. And it's not as if it's like squad players here that are making that counter. The counter was brilliant. They did everything bar finish it. Everything was brilliant bar the finishing of it. But again, he redeemed himself with the finish. And it was like, okay, 2-0. That's it. Done. Forget about it. Away from home, many, many changes. Rustiness all over the place. You're 2-0 up. Against the side you got to play again at the weekend.
Yeah.
Happy days. Arna, make your changes, do whatever you want. We'll sit back and relax and just see this out.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, you think it's going to be a routine 2-0. We're just going to pass the ball around. That's going to be the end of the game. But I do have to point out, so Sam Tandy's saying it happens a lot, though, almost like you have too much time. Gakpo just overcomplicating the pass, and Szoboszlai couldn't really hit it first time. Coconut Kyle couldn't believe it after the moment passed, and that's the joy that the goal came so quickly afterwards that you weren't allowed to stew on it too much. But Ashley, I will say, if we're doing a Brighton podcast right now, both the miss from the 3-on-1 and the goal, you are having an inquisition over Tariq Lamptey, because that boy, for as quick as he is and as good as his feet are, he does not like a long ball, like a high ball to be under, because the 3-on-1 comes from their corner. Quansah heads it out, and Lamptey takes a terrible touch, and Diaz snips in front of him, and that starts the 3v1. And then the goal comes from Yaros pumping the ball out to Lamptey. Another poor touch, and Gakpo takes it off of his toes. Like, that's turns out being a fullback, not the easiest thing in the world.
It's not. And he's always taking risks. I mean, especially with the first ball, or the first goal rather. He was up at the halfway line trying to win a header, and it didn't go to plan. And because of that, he was wildly out of position, and that left the space for Gakpo to run into. And that's what happens when you're an aggressive forward foot fullback. It's not as easy as it looks. And it's, we forget that, the tracking back and the defending and everything, that I don't even know where I'm going. I kind of like lost my train of thought there, but it's tough. I mean, we give Trent a lot of crap for defending, and a lot of pundits give him a lot of crap for his defending, but he's being asked to do two jobs at once. And, I can't fault Lamparty for doing that. I think that it's just the nature of the position.
Yeah. I think one thing, I think Tariq Lamptey would be a brilliant wing back.
Yeah.
I think if you were at Wolves under Nuno Espirito Santo or something like that, I think Tariq Lamptey would be a brilliant, brilliant wing back. In any side really that plays a back three or a back five. Because
so Amarim's first signing in January, then, is what you're saying.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, that's a done deal. That's done now, isn't it?
It's one of those type of players that would be on a lot of clubs' radars if you're looking to develop into a 3-back or a 5-back system.
Yeah,
and he's been really unlucky in his career with injuries. Had some really bad ones, and but the one thing that he's always had is pace. As a winger, because he was a winger, he started his career on the right wing, and he drifted back because he offers you so much going forward that you almost have to try to find a way to play him. But as an out-and-out fullback, nah, I wouldn't. You couldn't hang your hat on it. If you're Brighton and you're looking to finish in European spots, there's a reason why I think he probably plays Veltman in front of him, because he just offers you that bit more security.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see why. Like, he had that really good breakout season, whatever that was, 2 or 3 years ago, and then he picked up that big injury, and he struggled to kind of come back from there. But like Super Dizzle said, he's tiny. He's absolutely tiny. Just to break in here, Kieran Smith seems to be the artist that created the poster that's over Ashley's shoulder there, which I did notice. That's quite nice. Create your own history. That's absolutely lovely stuff there. Chris, the second goal goes in. It feels like it's going to be easy peasy from here. We start making the changes. McAllister and Trenioni come on for Endo and Morton. I think it's great. I thought Nioni had a fantastic preseason for being the tiny, the 80-pound, 16-year-old kid that he is. So I was really excited to get to see him come on in a game that we're controlling. They start making a few changes as well to bring a few more of their starting 11 players on. Clearly, they felt that there was still a game to be had here. Mo and Darwin come on for Gakpo and Szoboszlai. Gakpo, not the happiest of being taken off, with the brace already in the bag. And then, they have a shout for, or we have a shout for a penalty. I don't think it was a penalty. It's all going along just quite fine. And then we have to talk about it. I know Richard Lefebvre was asking whether we were going to address the VVQ elephant in the room, which I believe is Virgil van Quansah.
I did wonder if VVQ was. I thought it was a typo. That's why I asked.
Yeah, it took me a second.
That's why I said, what are you on about?
It's an atrocious pass that gets them back into the game.
Yeah, it's all on Quansah. It's a terrible pass, plays it right to the attacker, and that's where the whole attack comes from. If you're being nitpicky, possibly Giaros can do better with the save. I think it comes up with awkward angles. I think it looks like it hits his knee, but he doesn't push it wide enough. I think if you'd expect an Alisson or a Kelleher, probably that shot to get it wider, and it's probably a dead situation. Okay, yeah, I think the bounce did him. But you'd expect to push it wide. So, yeah, it was a gift. But listen, this is the thing you're going to have to get used to with what is he, 21? He's young. In centre-backs, he's a baby. This is what you get with young centre-backs is you will get these little brain farts, little moments. And the good ones, learn from it. And he's had a tough night tonight. He had a tough time against Ipswich as well. So, but he'll learn from it. And we've seen he's a good player. So, and luckily for him, it's not cost us the game, so he can go away and then he can go and work at it, and work from that because he's going to get more opportunities this season because, we've got the next round of the League Cup, but he'll get Premier League opportunities. He may get European opportunities, so he's got to take that on the chin. But yeah, if we're being brutally honest, the main kickstart that gets it back into him comes from his poor pass. You can see what he's trying to do, and it's a pass he's made many times. It's just he gets that one wrong. So. And sadly, Premier League's as a publisher.
It's kind of the thing, though, isn't it? If you're going to play out from the back, and you've got that in your head that we need to be playing out from the back, you're going to have moments like this. There are times this season already where we got away with it. Where there's either been a last-ditch tackle or a brilliant save, or they fluffed it. This time it just didn't work out. Look, the truth is, 10 minutes to go. That ball should have gone sailing long, a lot longer, a lot quicker than it did when the ball got to Quansah's feet. And yeah, he fluffed his lines. But at the end of the day, it's just if the manager is in the players' heads telling them to play out from the back, that's what they'll try to do. And ultimately, sometimes it's not going to work. And I think I'd rather it not work when you're 2-0 up and virtually in control, really. They huffed and puffed a bit, but most of their chances were from outside the box. And Jaros made a couple of saves, but, I thought up until the 80th minute, we were fairly well in control. And it was just a case of he fluffed his lines and we ended up drawing pressure onto ourselves that we didn't really need. But at the same time, the flip side of that, you can look at it and say, look, ultimately, this 11 saw it out in the end. So there's always positives to take from it.
Yeah, it's all very good points. Dan J here with another one says Quansah was actually good in his general defending. It was just that stupid decision that cost him, and then the unfortunate deflection. As has been said, that will happen with young defenders. And if my memory serves me correctly, if you were to go back and look at some of the shows we did last year where Quansah was playing well, playing far above his station, that you would have heard probably all of us at one point or another say he's going to have these ricks because he's just a young defender. These mistakes are going to happen. It almost certainly was said after he gave that ball away for Bruno Fernandes to score against us. And that's just something that you have to take. So, yeah, you just have to be happy that it happens in a game where it doesn't cost you the 3 points or doesn't get you knocked out of a cup competition. It's And he was also, I do have to say, he was also very lucky. The save that Jaros made off of Adingra's header, he was very lucky that ball didn't deflect off of his leg and go into the net for another own goal. Because, he's already got 2 own goals. He's got the mistake against United. He's got the mistake he made tonight. So, he's developing kind of a list of memorable lowlights. But at the same time, he was so good last year and his quality is there. So I quite like the fact that Arne Slot is very clearly managing him.
I'm sure if you go back and look at top centre-backs when they were 20, 21, I bet they've got similar rigs.
Oh, yeah.
Just no one talks about it because no one looks at a player when they're 21 and think that's the ready-made player. If he's still doing that sort of stuff regularly at 26, 27, I mean, if he's still doing those regular rigs at 26, 27, he's probably not at Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody was Virgil van Dijk at 21.
Groningen?
Spurs versus United.
Yeah. We're starting to get the quarterfinal draws are coming in. The Limoncello Ultra, Emmett, is Spurs versus Man United. Arsenal at home to Palace, which is narrowing it down. We could get a Brentford. We could get a Southampton. We could still get
as long as we get a home draw. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I'd take away to Southampton. You can't be too upset about that. I'm reticent to get too far into everything that comes afterwards because it feels like we're going to get
Newcastle
versus Brentford. All right, that means that by process of elimination, we are playing Southampton. It's just a matter of where. Come on, Limoncello. Away to Saints. So it's a long
take what you can get.
Yeah, it's a long trip for the traveling cop, but it's the best team that you could have drawn out of that batch. So you have to take the rough with the smooth. We'll talk about the other results from today after we get through this last little bit here. Ashley, even though it was a kind of sickening goal to give away because it does create that momentum, the Brighton fans get up for it when Adingra puts the ball into the net. It's becoming a bit of a habit that I can get behind, that we respond to giving up a goal very, very quickly because it's about 2 or 3 minutes later. And the work and determination from Luis Diaz to get that ball, to put it in the back of the net is outrageous.
Yeah, I think he was like 1 on 3. Sorry. I mean, his footwork is phenomenal. He's as close to Bobby as I think we've got in our team right now. And I love Bobby Firmino. And I just love it's like he's dancing with the ball. And I think it actually went through the defender's legs as it was going in, which is always kind of a fun little flourish. But that was his work. That was his hard work. And it's great to see, you have Gakpo shining and getting his 2 goals. And then you have Diaz kind of like being like, well, I can compete with that. And I can come on and I can get my goal. And that's the kind of competition that you want between your 2 players in one position. And I mean, it's lovely for my nerves for us to be getting into this habit because I did not want to be going into that last 15 minutes having to worry about a penalty shootout with Jaros in goal, as fantastic as he has been. So being able to just get that lead back and then comfortably-ish see out the game. I don't know. It's a wonderful habit that we're getting into.
Yeah, and it's credit where it's due for Mo Salah. He plays the cross in because I think the changes of Mo and Darwin coming on, neither of them really had an impact on the game, but Mo puts the ball into Diaz, who lays it off to Jones. It's a really good save by Jason Steele in the Brighton goal on Curtis Jones' shot because it takes a big deflection off of, I think it might have been Igor. And he palms it out. Then the ball just gets hoofed up in the air, and Luis Diaz was like, I will take on every player in this box. I am getting this ball and putting it in. And it's quite lovely. And then in between that and Brighton's second goal, the only note I have is that Quansah actually having very good defense against Mitoma, who, Chris, I thought when Mitoma came on, he was a problem. He looks to be getting back some of the form that he had before his big injury, too.
Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's annoying for the weekend. Yeah, that's annoying for the weekend. Yeah, Mitoma's a really, really good player. I actually thought both Bradley and Quansah dealt with him fairly well. He got past him a couple of times, but guess what? Mitoma's going to get past anybody a couple of times because he's a good player. But yeah, no, in general, I thought we did okay. I mean, in terms of the second goal, Paul Quansah, when it's following you because the poor lad's on the floor, can't do anything about it, hits the bottom of his boot and flies in. There's absolutely nothing he can do about it. That's just one of those when it's going for you, it's going for you. Which I could understand why he was took off, because it had the feel of, not his fault, but it had the feel of the next shot that goes near him is going to fly over the equaliser. It just had one of those games, sometimes you have a feel for a play, thinking like it's just not your day. Like, flip it back, when England got beat by Italy in the Euros, I would have took Saka off 10, 20 minutes before we did, rather than have them take a penalty. You could just tell a player, go, it's just one of those games, it's not working out for you. And it's generally for that person, when it's not working out for him, it normally bites them in the arse again. And I just felt for Quansah thinking, if you left him on it any longer, I mean, to be fair, I think before the second goal, they were trying to take him off anyway. And then unfortunately, then the second goal comes in and then they take him off. You know, it's just unfortunate. It was just unfortunate. One of those things. But like you said, developing a player, it's never linear. And actually, they learn more from the dips than they do from the peaks. And look, we know he's a good player, so I'm sure he'll learn from it and come back better.
Yeah, Ashley's asking everybody in the chat, and I would like to see people's answers of what your thoughts are on Slot taking Quansah off at the end. Because, Kev, before you and Ashley joined us, when it was just Chris and I chatting before we went live, I said, I don't think Jurgen Klopp makes that substitution. I don't think Jurgen Klopp takes off Quansah like that and puts that spotlight on him and, you know, tries to shield, you know, the young boy in that sort of way. What's your take on it?
There's nothing to do with that. I wouldn't have made that change anyway. If you want to bring Konate on, fine. Take Diaz off. Take someone else off. Go through a back five. See the game out. You know, I mean, I just thought it was the wrong change to begin with. The fact that he conceded that, it's not even going to go down as an own goal because the shot was on target. But I mean, it just compounds it. It makes it worse than what it is. He'll probably feel 10 times worse than what he absolutely feels like now because he got hooked as well. And it's unfortunate for him because overall he had a decent enough game up until the last 10 minutes. And then it's just like the ball followed him. And when it followed him, bar that one, tackle on Matoma, it was like the ball became a hand grenade for him in the last 10 minutes. But I really, really felt for him when he was hooked because I just thought he probably wanted the ground to swallow him up. But he's surrounded by some really good teammates, some really experienced teammates who will be all around him, and he'll be well looked after over the next few days. He'll be fine. He'll go away with England under 21s next, and I'm sure he'll have a starring role for him again. But it was just unfortunate. But genuinely, if he wanted to bring Konate on, I would have gone to a back five. And just saw the game out, or broadcast us anything. It was just a case of, but no, genuinely, it was just a case of you want to see the game out. You've only a couple of minutes to go. Then you're going to get into situations later on in the season that you're going to need to see games out, and you're going to need to see what a back five looks like, and try it. This is what this competition is all about: trying different things, see what works, see what doesn't. We saw a lot of things tonight that didn't work. We saw some stuff tonight that really did work. And I thought that was just one I just thought was unnecessary.
I mean, to be honest, Kev, what he should have done was brought Costas on and gone done a back three Costas as a centre back because that worked really well. Last time we did that, do Bradley the other side. That was a dynamite bit of management last time we did that.
Foolproof. Avo's saying the poor kid looked distraught, a bit harsh. That's kind of what I thought too. Limoncello saying I think he was due to come off anyways, or at least I hope he was. Sam Tandy taking this quite seriously, saying I think Slot did it because he wanted to see Konate take a penalty. Madge Apple, second time now, a bit too harsh. Brian O'Halloran.
I think that's an important point. Yeah. I think because it's the second time, especially in such a public way, like that for me is the reason why I wouldn't have done it. I mean, whether or not if he was going to be coming off anyways, I don't know. I wasn't watching the sidelines to see if his number was indeed coming up, but he was pulled in a really public way at halfway at Ipswich, and that was a big kind of media hullabaloo. And I think, at least on my comms, I spent about whatever first half I could get of coverage listening to my pundits talk about how like Quansah wasn't up to it, how he looked rusty, how he had to have the Ipswich game playing in his head. And I mean, it's pundits talking nonsense, but I do think that there is a narrative out there from that game, and to have this happen again in sort of a very similar public way where, you know, there was 1 minute left of the game or 2 minutes left of the game, and to hook him in that manner, maybe in like inside of the club, it won't really make a difference, but outside of the club, I do think it creates a media narrative around Quansah. And I think because he's so young, he doesn't need that on his shoulders.
Yeah, it's the ruthlessness. I think it was you, Ashley, that said, like, I don't think Slot gives a shit about,
I don't think he does.
managing players and whatnot. And it seems to be a common theme amongst people in the chat. Like, it's the ruthlessness of Arne Slot of like, no, we're doing this. Dan J pointing out it's not nice for him, but Brighton were going a little bit more direct, so we needed Ibu's presence, and Quansah was in his own head a bit at that point. Yeah, you definitely want to bring Ibu Konate on for that calmness of, oh no, he took a yellow card within about 3 seconds, and that was
not his fault.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is, do you have this whole thing like, oh, Klopp wasn't ruthless like this and that? Klopp, people forget, first year or two Klopp was here, he was ruthless. But it's like most things, you build relationships with players. If Slot's still here in 2-3 years' time, let's see if he still does that to certain players, like Quansah. You might be surprised he doesn't then, because then he'll have built a rapport with certain players and he'll know who his trusted generals are. And when certain people are your trusted generals, you don't tend to take them off, even if they're having a bit of a mare. You know, he's got that nice thing as he's been over the door 3 months, so he can throw his weight around a little bit as the manager, and people have got to have to jump to his tune. And because he's winning games, you get away with it. If Liverpool weren't winning games and he was doing this, it'd be a very, very different conversation. You know, so I think sometimes people just need, as Catherine was put here, Klopp binned off Sacco. He knew within 6 months of being there, Sacco wasn't the right fit for him, and absolutely binned him off.
Look, my thing with this is very simple. Quansah needs to learn how to see these games out. He's not going to learn how to see these games out sat on the bench. All right, and you can call that ruthless. I don't. I think it was a mistake, and I think it was a missed opportunity. Jarell Quansah is going to learn absolutely nothing by being hooked with 2 minutes to go in a game that we're trying to see out. I think it was a silly mistake. It wasn't necessary. Like I said earlier, if you wanted to go to a back five, fine. If you want to get Ibu Konate on for an aerial presence because they were going direct, fine. There's ways of doing that. But Jarell Quansah needs to know in this system, in this setup, how to see these games out, and it's a missed opportunity for me.
Yeah. I just didn't see the point in doing it. I mean, even if like Chris says, the ball's a homing missile for Jarell Quansah to score another goal, and
got to learn to deal with it.
And I wasn't concerned about. I was the same as you, Kev. I wasn't concerned about if we lost this game. I really not too worried about it. But as it turns out, we do win this game. We win it 3-2, and we go on to what is somehow already the quarterfinals of the League Cup, which is, I think you said this, the week of the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th of December, Ashley?
Yeah, so it starts the week of the 16th. So 16th is a Monday. So 17th, 18th, I think it would be. And that's between our Fulham game, which is on the 14th, and our Spurs game, which is on the 22nd.
Yeah, so kind of nicely sandwiched in between there. It's a bit of travel, but maybe they just stop in London on the way back from Southampton.
The way they used to do this was one game a night for the quarterfinals, and they'd show all four. And the way they used to do it was you'd have a game Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. And then the league rolls into the Christmas schedule where games are just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, every day.
You know, so it'd be interesting to see how it goes. But one thing I came across before we go on social media, right? If we win the Carabao Cup quarterfinal, win the FA Cup third round, if we finish between 9th and 24th in the Champions League group, then that's Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, up until the end of February, with no gaps in the schedule to fit any winter postponements or anything. So as long as everything goes hunky-dory, if that's how it works out, that we win the quarterfinal, win the third round of the FA Cup, but we don't get into the top 8 of the Champions League group, we're going to be playing a lot of football. Whereas if we lose the quarterfinal, lose an FA Cup third round, finish in the top 8 of the Champions League, we get 2 weeks off at the start of February.
It's potentially brutal January.
January, I honestly think that we should be. Look, I know it's a completely different topic, and it's something we'll chat about closer to the time.
Transfers.
Yeah, I genuinely think that Arne Slot and Richard Hughes need to be busy, or need to be. If we're going to be doing something in January, I hope we do it early, because I think we're definitely going to need bodies in January, respective.
Do you think he's reassessing now? Like I think he had one opinion at the beginning of the season where I think he thought he could carry over his injury record with him. And I don't think that's happened. And I don't necessarily think it's his fault, because a lot of these injuries have happened on international duty. But I do wonder if Slot's kind of reassessing and being like, actually, this is inevitable. There's nothing that my team can do to prevent this from happening. And we actually do need more bodies.
Yeah, this was always a learning curve for Arne Slot. This is the first time he's been at a club where you've got 4 competitions, where the fans expect you to be active in all 4 and competitive in all 4 and trying to win everything. So he's never managed in this situation before. He's got a squad of 20, 25 players, but under these conditions, with the volume of football that is coming up thick and fast, it will test anybody. I don't care who you are. And our injuries, I don't think, are any more or less than anyone else. Most clubs are carrying 4 to 5 injuries at the minute. Some more, some less, but ballpark is 4 to 5.
Some have got miraculous recoveries in 48 hours. Have you noticed?
But it's just a case that you'd hope to expect now that you're coming into November. The plans for January would start to come now. They'll look at the squad, they'll look at the makeup, they'll look at the fitness, and they'll look the forward plan for the next however long. They'll know pretty much what the contract situation is with all the players, whether they're staying or going. So you'd expect forward planning to start in earnest now for this window. I don't expect January's to be quiet going forward. Not with the team that we've got in around transfers at the minute. I hope not. Anyway.
To be fair, we actually are a pretty decent player in the January window. Like if you look at in the last 15 or so years, we make some actually really smart acquisitions in January. Gakpo, Diaz, I mean, even going back to Coutinho, Sturridge, players like that. So we've shown in the past we do like a cheeky little January signing. But we have a super chat here from Hamad, which is 17.99 Qatari Reals, I believe that is. Wondering, do we expect Diaz to start next week after a full game? Asking for FPL reasons. Ashley, what do you think? Does Diaz get the start, or does Gakpo come in at left wing and the weekend?
I think Diaz starts. Although this is one of those ones where there's an argument that Gakpo is our form forward at the moment. Mm-hmm. I know that Salah always is contributing assists and goals, but we haven't really had that secondary forward that's been contributing in the same way. I mean, Diaz was on fire at the beginning of the season. I'd like to see that return. And I'm sure that Slot would like to see that return. I would not put money going either way if it was me personally. So I am no help there. I am so sorry.
Yeah. Chris, what's your thoughts on Hamad's question? Diaz to start?
I think he'll go. I think he should stick with Gakpo. Do Gakpo, Nunez, Salah. Because also, I thought Diaz had a pretty poor game against Arsenal. So I think Gakpo's his start in the league, to be fair to him.
Yeah. So, and what about you, Kev?
Toss a coin. I think it's about the only position on the pitch that I can safely say I don't know. And it is when you've got 2 players of that level of quality, I have no idea which way the coin is going to land. Because it could land, you can make a strong case for both. If you're looking at Brighton, odds are, I reckon they'll probably play Veltman at right back, and either player would look at taking on Veltman and having a really good go at him. So yeah, I don't know, and that's the truth.
Would you start Maka in this game?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I worry about his lack of ability that we saw get exposed against Arsenal, and I do wonder with someone like a Matoma playing, we do need someone who's going to be able to help Gravenberch cover. And I thought Jones looked better when we played him deeper. Now, because Jones played most of the game, I'm assuming Jones is probably not going to start, so it's probably going to be the original 3 of Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and McAllister.
Yeah, that's what I think he'll go as well. I think
we saw what Szoboszlai, like what we missed when Szoboszlai wasn't there in the Arsenal game. I know that he's sort of been not everyone's favorite in the media, but I think he brought the running power that we needed and the press that we needed. So I would vote having him start.
Okay. I just love how split it is. So really, Hamad, as it comes down to it, nobody knows. So
Mo Salah is probably a safe bet. Everyone else maybe.
It's your fantasy team. You live and die by your decisions, my man.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you need any pointers, I did pick up 13 points the other week, so I'm clearly the person to ask. But I mean, even just in the chat, like it's like Bob Paddock's figuring that Diaz will start against Leverkusen. Sam Tandy thinks it'll be Gakpo because Gakpo didn't start against Arsenal. You get other people pointing out the fact that Gakpo came off. I think he'll start, but
I think a lot is happening about load management as well. I mean, I saw people moaning about the 2 late subs for Darwin and Mo coming on. At the end of the day, for me, that's all about sharing the load across everybody, trying to share the minutes across everybody over what is a really busy period. And I think ideally he'd have loved to pick Chiesa, he'd have loved to be able to pick Elliott and rest a lot more, but we've only got 4 forwards really for 3 positions. So he's got to try and dish out the minutes evenly as evenly as possible and spread them as evenly as possible to try to give himself the best chance of getting the 4 of them through healthy. You can't legislate for what happened to Jota. I mean, for God's sake, guy landed on him.
I mean, his last 2 injuries have been that, haven't they? Somebody landed on him.
You can't legislate for it. Yeah, you can't legislate for impact. But
maybe just quit lying on the ground so much. You can't get landed on if you're not.
It shouldn't be shoved there in the first place, for God's sake.
It should be stronger, really, when you think about it.
I think the thing to take away in terms of the Diaz starting question is: will he start? Nobody knows. Will he play? You can almost guarantee it. If he doesn't start, he's coming off the bench because we just don't have the rotation options up front. So whether he comes on in place for Mo or Nunez or Gakpo if he doesn't start or just goes right from the start, he will certainly play. But a good shout for the fantasy team because Bob Paddock pointing out Brighton played a high line at Stamford Bridge. Maybe we just have to outscore them. Please. That would be absolutely great. But
we've got to be honest. So far, so good in this tough run.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Harks back to our preview show we did, and I mean, we've got 3 wins and a draw from these 7 tough games. So yeah.
Oh, let's not kid ourselves. They are tough games.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. They are tough games. It's not. We're not dismissing the fact that they are, and they're going to keep coming. The tough games are going to keep coming. We're really stepping up to it.
Yeah, but I mean, we talked about being tough games because we've won 3 and drawn 1. Yeah. I feel for some of our fan base, it's been a bit overlooked. Like, but next one, we were always going to win them. Or no, they were tough games. They weren't easy games we had.
No, and I think I love Slot's comment when he came out the other day, and it was either in a press conference or in an interview. We talked about, I came into the Premier League and they told me there's no easy games in the Premier League. And then suddenly it's like, oh, you haven't played anybody. It's like, look, at the end of the day, some of the clubs at the bottom third of the Premier League will spend 100 million in a transfer window. That doesn't happen anywhere else. And most of them are spending it on decent players. So every club in the Premier League has players in their starting lineups that can hurt you. Every single one, bar none. In different ways. So you've got to be up to it every single game. And also, so far, we've been phenomenal. We've been outstanding.
If you want to look
at no jokes.
If we played no one, you could argue neither of City then, because if you actually look at someone put up City's league fixtures versus our league fixtures, they're pretty much like for like. So, but no one. But I know that doesn't really sell the narrative.
Reverse conspiracy. It's a reverse.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it just.
Whereas Arsenal played everyone 5 times more, so they've got a really tough run.
Yeah, no, I think it just shows how competitive the league is. I think that a lot, like whether it's us, whether it's City, whether it's Arsenal, we can go to a team that we would be expected to win and have a really hard time against them, like Nottingham Forest. And I think that. I mean, if you look at the results from this past weekend, I don't know if it was said on this podcast or another podcast, but I think Forest was the only away team to win this past weekend. There were no other away wins. So there's a lot of kind of, it's not as much of a foregone conclusion as it has been in years past, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're right. Right.
And Kev mentioned Slot's comments, which of course reminded me that I'd saved all of the post-match quotes from Ashley, which would have been really good when we were discussing whether or not Diaz was going to start, because there are some quotes here from Slot. He says, on Gakpo, for me, he's a regular starter. He's not starting every game, but he started on a regular basis and is in tough competition with Lucho Diaz. I love the fact that he calls him Lucho. That's normal at a club like Liverpool. You have 2 quality players in every position, which is exactly what you said, Ashley. Goes on to say, Cody's been a good player for Liverpool for a long time now. He continues to do that. That's a good thing. Arnie says, I really like what I've seen from the players who haven't played much this season yet. They were able to play a similar style that we usually do, and they brought quality into the game. It makes it even harder for me to make lineups in the next coming weeks. I think that's a bit of a lie. On Vita Yaros, he says, everybody could see how important his saves were. The first big chance of the game for them as well. 1v1 in the second half. He made, of course, we all remember 1 or 2 saves he made as well. How comfortable he was with his ball at his feet, when to go short, when to clip the ball forward to the striker. It helped also a lot for him, the quality Jarrell Quansah and Joe Gomez brought in the build-up. And then he says, I prefer to play with the 9, but if they are not available, and of course we had Darwin available, but I think it was not good for him to start today after playing 3 games. This was the result of what we tried to come up with, and the players did really well, in my opinion. And then just to finish them off, Limoncello asked whether VAR would be available in the quarters, seeing as that it's all Premier League teams. And Ashley says, the EFL, who run the competition, have taken the decision to not use VAR to ensure a fair competition across the board. It will be used in March's final next year at Wembley.
That's new.
With the possibility of VAR being in use during the semifinal ties, should all 4 teams have the technology in place. So that's really talking out of both sides of their mouths right there. We're at the final 8 teams. They all have the technology in place. They should just put it into place. But
I'm sure they did it previously when they got to the quarterfinals. It was in.
Yeah, and they just should. And I mean, I don't know why they're not going up and down every month. They should be going to another ground that doesn't have the technology and just installing it.
They can't even install it properly here. We're still waiting for the offside technology that's supposed to be here already, and it's not here.
Yeah, it says they still got to get that one camera to get that one angle at the Emirates so you can tell whether or not a player is offside or not. Before we get out of here, let's go around and get everybody's man of the match, because I think it's kind of a bit of a toss. Well, no, it's not. What am I saying? Chris, who's your man of the match?
Gravenberch. Oh, sorry, it's Habit. Gakpo. I'm so used to saying Gravenberch is normally the answer, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of forgot that Cody Gakpo was pretty lightning in the second half. It was a pretty...
Yeah, the guy scored 2 goals. He did quite well, Matt. I think he should get man of the match.
Do you have any honorable mentions?
Don't take it away from the other ones.
Oh,
we need something
sorry.
Yaros. Yaros. I'll give Yaros because I thought that was a good debut. To be fair.
Okay. Ashley, I won't let Kev go ahead of you. Who is your man of the match then? You seem like you got a fun one.
Well, Yaros was my other one. I'm going to give it to Nioni for coming on and looking very confident. I thought it is not a man of the match performance, but you've already taken my 2. So I'm going to give Nioni a shout out because we haven't talked about him yet. And I thought he looked very assured, and I really liked his composure on the ball.
Yeah, it was a decent performance at a top level for the young kid. Kev, who do you like?
Gakpo was obviously the best player on the pitch, comfortably. Conor Bradley, I thought, did well, having come back off a long layoff. Loved his energy. I mean, the kid has got a set of lungs on him because he bursts up and down the wing. He's always gets back into position in recovery as well. So he had a really good game. But Tyler Morton did well on the ball at times. Really comfortable on the ball. I think he's a really tidy footballer. I always said he's a really tidy footballer. And the fact that I think, how old is he now? Let me have a quick look. Yeah, he's 21 still. You know, he's still a really young kid. And I think there's more to come from him for sure. He's just unfortunate at the minute that he's a bit below in the pecking order. But I think he's arguably, for me, ahead of Endo in the pecking order at the minute, because I just think he's a lot more comfortable on the ball.
Yeah, he's got the more natural, like the ball playing style that we've adopted under Arne Slot seems to come more naturally to him than it does to than it does to poor Ando, which is too bad. Dan J was just about to mention Ione, so Ashley nipped in front of him like I let Chris do in front of her every time. But he also thought Gomez did well.
Yeah,
he would have been my honorable mention. I thought Joe Gomez was very tidy on the ball because we played some pretty brave football around at the back, and being good on the ball is not an accusation that I think has been leveled at Joe Gomez too many times. So, and he's not played a ton of minutes either. So I thought he stepped in quite nicely. But I don't think anybody on our team played poorly either. Like, did any of you guys have anybody that you were like, oh, that was a terrible game?
Curtis Jones looked so much more comfortable when he dropped deeper. When Trenioni came on really off the front, Curtis Jones dropped back into a midfield too, and he just instantly looked a better player. It's just a much more natural fit for him. He doesn't suit the 10, not in the way we're playing at the minute, and definitely doesn't suit playing up front. You know, I know his horses for courses and needs must, and you know him and Dom did a job for the team, but neither of them looked like they both looked like fish out of water playing through the middle. And I was quite looking. I wouldn't have minded seeing Dom play up front on his own if we played a 3-man midfield. And look to use him as a link play to try to bring others, let him drop deep and let the two wingers come inside, you know. But the way we set up with two of them playing up front, almost like in a 4-4-2 at times, I think it just takes away way too much from their natural games. I know they're capable and they did a job for the team tonight, but I wouldn't like to see that on a regular basis, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the post-match comment from Slot of preferring to play with a 9, but he didn't really have one. So they kind of just had to make do today. And Thor pointing out that Ione can only get an honorable mention if he finishes his homework. I think he has a big math test or something like that coming up tomorrow because he is a child. Chris, any final words before we go?
No, nothing from me.
Good. Ashley?
No, we keep marching on.
There we go. Exactly. Kev?
Nah, mate. Great draw. Way to Southampton.
It was a win, Kev.
Some big names went out tonight.
Yeah, look, I mean, happy with the win, happier with the draw. It looks like we have a really good pathway into a semi-final. I'm not sure if the draw for the quarterfinals indicate who you're going to get in the semis.
No,
is it an open draw into the semis as well?
It's an open draw. It's an open draw in the semis.
Yeah. But look, it's anybody's competition. We can go to Wembley and win it again. It's all on for us if we want to do it.
That would be fun. That was a very fun show last year, the post Carabao Cup final show. That was an absolute joy. So yes, thank you everybody for being here and watching. It's got about 240 people in here right now, which is quite lovely. So please hit a like if you haven't done it already. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to become a member, I'd highly recommend it. All of us in here are members. You get access to the 30s that Gav does in the morning. So keep your notification bells turned on. Looking at you, one of the Pete's from the chat. Turn your notification bell on so you don't miss out on shows that pop up. I mean, you should have known this one was coming. But yes, we've gone to Brighton for the first out of 2 back-to-back games against Brighton, different competitions with pretty different starting 11s it's going to be. And we've walked out 2 to 3 winners, and we advance on into the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup and play Southampton in December. But there's a lot of football between now and then, so we can all put the League Cup on the back burner if we can get through a lot of games. And the nice thing about it is that you will have us here to go through the games with you after they're all done. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, help us out with our charities if you can. We'll see you after the next game.